Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral found in many water sources and is often added to public drinking supplies to prevent tooth decay. On the surface, this sounds like a straightforward public health measure, but for decades it has also been at the center of some wild and pervasive conspiracy theories. From claims of government mind control to shadowy elites using fluoride to keep the masses docile, these theories capture imaginations worldwide. The most common theory surrounding fluoride in water is that it's not just for dental health, rather, it's a tool of mass manipulation. Proponents of this theory argue that by adding fluoride to the water, governments or secret organizations are attempting to control our minds. The basis for this belief is often a mistrust of government agencies and pharmaceutical industries, compounded by historical examples of unethical experiments and cover-ups. The roots of this theory can be traced back to the early days of water fluoridation in the United States, beginning in the mid-20th century. At that time, some groups were suspicious of the government's intentions. Anti-communist sentiment was at its peak during the Cold War, and this played a huge role in fueling these theories. People were already on edge, worrying about infiltration and subversion, and fluoridation became an easy target. The idea that fluoride could somehow pacify the population or make people more suggestible fed directly into these fears. A common version of this theory suggests that fluoride, when consumed in small but consistent doses, affects the pineal gland in the brain. The pineal gland, sometimes called the third eye by mystics and spiritualists, is believed by some to be responsible for consciousness and spiritual insight. The theory goes that by calcifying this gland with fluoride, governments are shutting down our higher levels of awareness and keeping us more compliant to authority. It's an unsettling thought, one that has led to the widespread belief that fluoridation is not about our health, but about control. But could there be a grain of truth to the idea that fluoride has effects beyond dental health? Critics point to studies that suggest excessive fluoride exposure can cause negative effects, such as cognitive impairment. There's no shortage of voices within the scientific community that are critical of water fluoridation, albeit for different reasons than those posed by conspiracy theorists. The fluoride mind control theory doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a larger web of concerns about how governments manipulate their populations. For many conspiracy theorists, fluoride is just one tool among many. They see it as part of a grander agenda to dull the public's critical thinking and suppress dissent. To understand why this theory resonates with so many people, we must explore the broader historical context of distrust in authority and public health initiatives. During the 1960s and 70s, the counterculture movement in the US was flourishing, fueled by skepticism of government actions, corporate interests, and military overreach. It was in this environment that the fluoride conspiracy theories really began to gain traction. Anti-establishment thinkers began questioning not just fluoride, but all manner of chemicals and substances introduced by the government. The environmental movement of the time added to these suspicions, with concerns about pollution, pesticides, and other forms of chemical contamination. Fluoride became the symbol of something much larger, the idea that powerful entities could control populations through seemingly benign public health measures. In the eyes of conspiracy theorists, fluoride in water isn't just a local issue, it's part of a global plot. Some of the more extreme versions of the theory argue that global elites, sometimes linked to groups like the Bilderberg Group or the Illuminati, are using fluoride as part of a broader strategy to control the masses. These elites, according to believers, seek to maintain a docile and passive population that won't rise up against them. Fluoride, in this view, is just one method among many, alongside media manipulation, pharmaceuticals, and even social media. Interestingly, fluoride's alleged role in population control isn't limited to the theory of mind control. Some believe that fluoride is also part of a larger eugenics program designed to lower fertility rates or cause health problems that disproportionately affect certain populations. In this narrative, fluoridation is seen as a slow-acting poison that harms people's bodies over time, contributing to chronic diseases, lowered IQs, and diminished lifespans. While these claims are often dismissed by mainstream science, the fact that some studies have shown potential negative effects of excessive fluoride exposure lends credibility to the fears for some. A 2019 study from JAMA Pediatrics reported a possible link between high fluoride levels in pregnant women and lower IQ scores in their children, reigniting the debate around fluoride safety. Though the study was controversial and its findings not widely accepted as conclusive, it provided fuel to the conspiracy theorists' fire, who saw it as proof that fluoride is harmful beyond its dental benefits. The fluoride debate is also complicated by the fact that different countries have different standards when it comes to water fluoridation. For example, many European countries, including Germany and France, have banned or never adopted water fluoridation, citing public health concerns. This has only added to the belief among fluoride skeptics that fluoridation in places like the US and Canada is not truly necessary, but rather part of a deeper agenda. As we dive deeper into the fluoride conspiracy, it's important to acknowledge how the internet has played a role in spreading and evolving these theories. In the digital age, anyone with a suspicion or an idea can find like-minded individuals online, creating echo chambers that reinforce and amplify their beliefs. Social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Reddit are home to countless forums where fluoride conspiracies are debated and dissected, often with little regard for scientific evidence or fact-checking. One of the most striking aspects of these discussions is how seamlessly fluoride conspiracies intersect with other modern-day fears, such as the New World Order, 5G technology, and even COVID-19 vaccines. Fluoride often serves as a gateway conspiracy, a starting point that leads people to question everything else about the systems in place. For instance, those who believe that fluoride is part of a larger control mechanism often lump it together with the belief that vaccines contain microchips for tracking, or that chemtrails, the white streaks left behind by airplanes, are being used to manipulate the weather or even human biology. This convergence of conspiracy theories has created a kind of super-conspiracy, where fluoride is seen not only as a tool for mind control, but also a link in a chain of global manipulation. Believers argue that by controlling what we consume, whether it's fluoride, vaccines, or genetically modified foods, governments and shadow organizations can keep us in a perpetual state of compliance and ignorance. This grand narrative appeals to a deep-seated human desire to make sense of a complex and often frustrating world. Interestingly, the fluoride conspiracy has gained support from unexpected quarters. Some alternative health movements, which promote natural remedies and reject conventional medicine, have picked up on the anti-fluoride message. Influential figures in the wellness industry, from naturopaths to fitness influencers, often repeat claims that fluoride is a toxin that harms the body, despite overwhelming evidence of its safety in regulated amounts. The wellness industry, with its focus on natural living, has found common ground with conspiracy theorists who believe that fluoride is an unnecessary chemical additive imposed on an unsuspecting public. But what about the facts? What does the science actually say about fluoride? While conspiracy theories often cite anecdotal evidence and isolated studies, the majority of scientific research continues to support the safety and efficacy of fluoride in preventing tooth decay. Major health organizations, including the World Health Organization, the American Dental Association, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, endorse water fluoridation as one of the most effective public health interventions in history. According to these organizations, the levels of fluoride used in public water supplies are far too low to cause the kinds of harm suggested by conspiracy theories. Nonetheless, it's hard to ignore that the conversation around fluoride taps into larger issues about public trust scientific transparency, and the relationship between governments and citizens. For many people, the fluoride conspiracy is not just about the mineral itself, but about a broader fear that they are being deceived or controlled by unseen forces. The persistence of these beliefs highlights the complex dynamic between authority and skepticism in modern society. One of the more fascinating elements of the fluoride conspiracy is how it has woven itself into the larger tapestry of anti-authoritarian sentiment. While fluoride conspiracies once found a foothold primarily among fringe groups, they have since become more mainstream. This shift can be attributed, in part, to the erosion of trust in institutions, as scandals, misinformation, and disillusionment continue to shape public perceptions. With events like the Flint water crisis, where residents were exposed to unsafe levels of lead in their drinking water, the fear of chemical contamination no longer seems so far-fetched. Incidents like these serve as proof for some that public health systems can fail or even deliberately harm citizens, validating the suspicion that fluoride might be part of a similar scheme. What makes the fluoride conspiracy so resilient is its adaptability. As new scientific research and health policies evolve, conspiracy theories shift to incorporate fresh evidence, real or imagined. For example, while some studies do suggest potential harm from excessive fluoride exposure, particularly in developing children, the mainstream medical community generally agrees that these risks are minimal when fluoride is used appropriately. Yet for conspiracy theorists, these findings serve as proof that fluoride is harmful and that the dangers have been suppressed or downplayed by the authorities. Despite decades of scientific rebuttal, the fluoride conspiracy remains alive and well, morphing to fit new narratives about government control, public health, and global manipulation. The internet has made it easier than ever for these ideas to persist, allowing skeptics to connect, share, and refine their beliefs. What began as a localized concern about drinking water has since spiraled into a global theory of control, with fluoride becoming a focal point for larger fears about manipulation and compliance. Ultimately, the fluoride conspiracy is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. It speaks to fundamental anxieties about personal autonomy, government transparency, and the role of science in public health. As long as people feel disconnected from the systems that govern their lives, they will continue to search for explanations, even if those explanations take the form of far-reaching conspiracies. Whether fluoride is truly a tool of mind control or simply a misunderstood public health measure, one thing is certain: its place in the conspiracy canon is secure.